The dog that spoke. The sky was dark, and the wind howled through the trees. Rain poured down over the lonely planet, soaking the forest in cold silence. Jake held his coat tight around his body and moved carefully along the muddy path. His boots slipped sometimes, but he didn't stop. His scanner had picked up something strange just an hour ago, something alive. He had been working alone on this colony for months. His job was to repair old signal towers, but most days, he just walked through forests and empty stations. He hadn't spoken to another human face-to-face in weeks. Then, he saw her. At first, he thought it was a wild animal. She was lying under a tree, half covered in leaves and mud. Her fur was silver with streaks of blue, and her golden eyes were open but full of pain. She looked like a dog, but not quite. Her ears were longer, her body thinner. Her paws had tiny fingers at the ends. Jake knelt beside her. "Hey, easy," he whispered. "I won't hurt you." The creature made a soft sound, something between a whimper and a purr. She tried to stand, but her front leg collapsed. Jake saw a deep wound across her side. It was bleeding slowly, but the edges were black, as if burned. "You poor thing," he said. He pulled out his med kit and cleaned the wound. She didn't resist. She just stared into his eyes, never blinking. Jake could feel something in her gaze, like she was trying to speak without words. He wrapped her with his coat and lifted her gently. She wasn't heavy, but she shook in his arms, either from pain or fear. He carried her all the way back to his cabin near the hills. Inside, he made a warm bed near the heater and placed her there. She didn't move much, only rested her head and watched him. Jake brought water and some food, hoping she would eat. To his surprise, she sniffed the food, then ate slowly and carefully. "You're smart," he said. Maybe too smart for a normal animal. For the next few days, she stayed quiet. Jake cleaned her wound each morning. She healed fast, faster than any animal he'd seen. Every night, she lay close to the heater, her eyes following his every move. He started talking to her more just to break the silence. "You know," he said one evening, "I should give you a name." He looked at her silver fur and the way her eyes glowed under the cabin lights. "Nova," he said. "You look like a nova, bright, sharp, and strange." The creature blinked slowly. "Nova. It is." Jake smiled. On the 5th night, Jake sat near the window. Outside, the stars were bright. He missed Earth sometimes, even missed noise people, anything. He looked over at Nova, who was now sitting upright. She looked stronger, healthier. "Thanks for keeping me company," he said. He turned to drink his coffee. Then, it happened. Jake. His hand froze. The mug slipped and spilled hot coffee onto his leg. "What?" He looked around. There was no one else in the cabin. "Jake," the voice came again, soft, calm, and clear. He turned slowly toward Nova. She was staring at him. Her mouth hadn't moved, but the voice had come from her direction. Jake stood up, heart racing. Did you just say my name?" Nova tilted her head. "Yes." Jake backed up until he hit the wall. "You're not just a dog." Nova lowered her eyes. "No, I'm not." Jake felt dizzy. He had seen strange things before. Alien bugs, floating crystals, even lightning that moved like water. But this was something else. "How are you speaking?" Nova stood, walking, slowly to him. Her legs still looked weak, but her steps were graceful. "We don't speak with sound," she said. "We speak with connection." "Connection?" he whispered. "Your kindness opened the link," she said. "Now you can hear me." Jake couldn't speak. He just stared, breath caught in his throat. Nova looked up at him, her golden eyes shining. "You need to prepare, Jake," she said gently. "For what?" She paused. Her voice came softer now, filled with emotion. "Because we're having puppies." She's not just a dog. Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat on the cold cabin floor, staring at Nova. The fire crackled beside them, casting soft shadows across her silver fur. Her golden eyes never blinked. They simply watched him, calm and steady, like she had waited years for this moment. "You can talk," Jake whispered again, more to himself than to her. Nova nodded slowly. "Yes?" Her voice wasn't like human voices. It echoed inside his head, smooth like a thought, but stronger. It felt like it belonged, not to just his ears, but to his whole mind. "How long have you been able to do that?" he asked. Nova stood and moved closer. Her steps were careful, soft, and full of quiet strength. "I was born with the gift. All of my kind are." Jake stared at her, heart pounding. "Then why pretend to be a normal animal? Why not just talk from the start?" Nova looked down. "Because trust must grow, and the gift only works when the bond is real." Jake frowned. "What kind of bond?" Nova's tail twitched. She took another step, now just a breath away from him. "You saved me. You cared for me when I was weak. You touched my blood and didn't run. That created the link." Jake looked down at his hands. The memory of her dark wound flashed in his mind. The burned skin, the strange scent, the way it healed so fast. "You're not just smart," he said. "You're something else." What are you really?" Nova sat in front of him, straight and tall. "I am Valari," she said, "daughter of the winded flame, born of the second breath. My people live far beyond this system. We walked two paths, one of body, one of mind, and we were hunted for both." Jake's chest tightened. "Hunted," she nodded. "Many feared us. They feared how we speak, how we bond, how we see truths. Others hide." Jake rubbed his forehead. This was too much. Alien creatures talking with thoughts, ancient bloodlines, secret wars. None of it made sense. But why come here? Why were you alone in that forest? Nova lowered her eyes. "I fled." "From who?" Nova didn't answer right away. Instead, she moved to the corner of the cabin and lay down near the fire again. "From those who wanted my litter. Those who would use the children for war." Jake blinked. "Wait, children? You mean?" Nova looked at him again, eyes glowing. "Yes, Jake, the puppies are yours." His throat tightened. "How?" "I mean, we didn't." Nova's voice softened. "You touched me. Your blood mixed with mine. The link chose. And the bond was accepted." Jake stood and paced the room. "This can't be real. I'm not ready for something like this." "No one is ever ready," Nova said. "But it has begun." Suddenly, a sharp beeping came from the corner of the room. Jake turned to see his signal scanner blinking red. "Motion," he muttered. "Someone's out there." Nova stood at once, her ears lifted high and her eyes narrowed. "They found me." Jake ran to the scanner. A small drone was flying low in the forest, scanning the area. It wasn't from the colony base. It was from a private ship, black-coated, silent, unregistered. "Who the hell are these people?" Jake said. Nova growled low. "They call themselves collectors. They hunt rare species. They steal blood. They sell secrets. And they want the pups?" "Yes," Nova whispered. "They know what hybrid blood can do." Jake grabbed his jacket and a blaster from the wall. "We have to move now." Nova stepped beside him. "There's a place high in the northern hills. My kind once hid there. The rocks confuse scanners." Jake nodded. "Then we run." They slipped into the night, leaving the cabin behind. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick with danger. Above them, the stars watched silently, and somewhere behind, the drone circled closer. As they climbed the hills, Jake noticed Nova slowing down. Her breaths were short, her steps shaky. "You okay?" he asked. Nova didn't answer. She just kept moving. Finally, they reached a rocky ledge above a wide cliff. Nova collapsed beside a broken stone marker. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface. "This is the place," she said weakly. Jake knelt beside her. "What's wrong?" Nova looked at him. For the first time, fear touched her voice. "The puppies. They're growing fast. Too fast." Jake stared at her in shock. "What does that mean?" Nova shut her eyes. They're not just children. Jake, they carry something ancient, something that hasn't been born in 1,000 years. Before Jake could respond, the scanner blinked again. 3 heat signatures. Coming from the south. Blood scent and bounty hunters. The wind was cold in the high hills. Dust swirled in the air, carrying strange smells. Burnt metal, old stone, and something darker. Jake sat near the edge of the cave entrance, blaster ready. Below, he could see 3 shapes moving through the trees. They were fast, quiet, and organized. Not animals. Not colonists. Hunters. He turned back to Nova. She was curled on the stone floor, breathing slow but deep. Her silver fur had darkened. Her body trembled. Her eyes were closed but not in sleep. She was holding something back, something powerful. They're close, Jake said. 3 of them coming from the south. Nova opened her eyes. They smell my blood, and the pups. Jake's stomach turned. How do we stop them? Nova sat up slowly. Her voice was weaker now, but her mind still burned like fire. You don't stop them with weapons. Not the first ones. You hide, you wait. You let them show their faces. Jake didn't like that plan, but he didn't argue. Nova was the only one who seemed to know what was really going on. He looked down at his blaster, checked the power, cell, and took a deep breath. An hour passed. The wind fell silent. Then a sound. Soft, high-pitched, like metal wings cutting air. Jake looked out again. A drone. Small and round, with black eyes and a buzzing tail, it floated past the trees, scanning everything with green light. Jake crouched lower and held his breath. That's not a scout drone, Nova whispered. That's a tracker. It reads blood trails. Jake glanced at the cave entrance. It'll find us. Nova closed her eyes again. Not if I call the stones. Jake looked at her, confused. What does that mean? She placed one paw on the old stone floor. Glowing blue cracks lit up beneath her. The cave began to hum. Softly, but deep, like the voice of the mountain itself. The air shimmered around the entrance. Then, silence. The drone passed by, scanning the area twice, then turned and floated away. Jake let out a breath. You just made us invisible. To machines, Nova said. But the hunters are not machines. He nodded. So they'll come in person. Nova's golden eyes narrowed, and they won't knock. Just before dawn, the first hunter arrived. Jake heard footsteps before he saw him. Boots crunching dry leaves. A soft hiss of armor. A human, no, not fully. Taller than any man Jake had met. Pale blue skin, red eyes, a rifle that looked older than the war itself. He stepped into the clearing and stopped. Looked around. I know you're here, the hunter said calmly. His voice was cold, sharp like glass. Jake didn't move, didn't breathe. The hunter turned slowly toward the cave. Silver, dog, he said. I've come for the blood. Give me the litter and I'll make your death quick. Nova stood up. Her body still shook, but her eyes were strong. She walked to the front of the cave. You have no right to speak my name, she said. The hunter smiled. Your kind belongs in cages. Your kind belongs in graves, Nova answered. The hunter raised his rifle. Before Jake could fire, Nova leapt forward. She moved like lightning. One flash of silver fur, one growl so deep the ground shook. The hunter flew back, hitting a tree with a loud crack. His gun slipped from his hands. Nova stood over him, teeth bared, claws out. Her body was glowing now, lines of blue light along her back and neck. Tell the others, she said, voice low and full of power. I do not run anymore. The hunter coughed, blood dripping from his mouth. You can't protect them forever. Nova slashed once across his face, not to kill, but to mark. Then she stepped back. He limped away, vanishing into the trees. Jake stared at her. That was incredible. Nova didn't look at him. Her breath was heavy. He was the weakest. The next ones won't speak first. Jake stepped forward. You're glowing, Nova nodded. The pups are waking inside me. Their power is waking with them. What does that mean? Nova looked at him for a long time. It means time is running out. Just before sunset, Jake set traps around the cave, old sensor mines, noisemakers, and shock wire. He'd used them before to keep away wild beasts. But these were no wild beasts. The second hunter arrived as the sky turned orange. This one didn't speak. He moved like a shadow, low, fast, and silent. The trap went off first. A sharp sound. Then, silence. Jake rushed outside, blaster ready. The hunter stood among the wires unharmed. Black armor, red visor, a strange weapon on his arm that crackled with energy. He raised his hand, and the weapon fired. Jake jumped aside. The blast missed him but hit a tree. The wood exploded, burning in green flame. Jake fired back. 3 shots. One hit the hunter's shoulder. It didn't stop him. He rushed forward. Nova leapt from the side, biting his leg and dragging him down. But this hunter didn't fall easy. He swung his arm and hit Nova hard. She flew back, hit a rock, and didn't move. "No!" Jake shouted. He ran forward, fired again, this time aiming for the head. The shot hit. The hunter dropped. Jake ran to Nova. She was breathing, but barely. "Nova," he whispered, holding her head in his arms. "Don't leave me. Not now." Her eyes opened slowly. "You fought for me," she said. "Always," Jake said. Nova smiled, weakly. "Then you must know. If I die, they'll still come for the pups." Jake held her tighter. "Then we'll fight together." She closed, her eyes. "Not together," she whispered. "There is someone you must meet. Someone who can protect them if I can't." "Who?" Nova's voice faded into silence. But before sleep took her, she said one name. Drakkar. The memory Kavanova didn't wake for hours. Jake sat beside her the entire time, holding her paw in both hands. Outside the cave, the sky shifted from red to gray. Wind howled through the rocks, but the cave stayed still. Quiet. Too quiet. Nova's body glowed faintly under her fur. The strange blue light pulsed slowly like the beat of a second heart. Sometimes her ears twitched. Sometimes she whispered names in a language Jake didn't understand. But mostly she just slept. Jake had never felt so helpless. He'd fought before. He'd survived storms, crashes, and attacks. But now, he wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for someone else. For Nova, and for the pups that hadn't been born yet. "Come on," he whispered. "You're the strong one. You can't leave me now." A sound behind him made him jump. A deep hum. Low and steady. He turned. A wall at the back of the cave had started to glow. Blue symbols, circles, stars, waves lit up one by one. Then a shape appeared in the stone, not a door. More like a window. It shimmered like water. "What the hell?" Jake stood, still holding his blaster, and stepped toward the light. He touched it, and the cave swallowed him whole. His body didn't move. But his mind did. He was floating. Not in water. Not in air. Just floating. Then the images began. He saw Nova, young and wild, running with others like her through a shining forest. Silver trees, red rivers, twin suns above. He saw her training with her elders, learning to speak with her mind, to read the truth in others, to bond, to love. Then, the vision changed. He saw fire, cages, tall ships with dark banners. He saw Nova's people taken, chained, beaten, sold. He saw collectors cutting their fur, draining their blood, turning them into trophies. Then, he saw something strange. Himself, standing in a clearing, holding a child in his arms. Nova beside him, older, stronger, her body glowing gold. But it wasn't now. It was the future. Or maybe the past. "What is this?" he asked, voice shaking. A voice answered, not Nova's, but it came from inside him. "This is the memory cave," it said. "This is where truth is born." Jake turned. A new figure stood behind him, taller than him, broader, shaped like Nova, but older, darker fur, eyes like stone. "Who are you?" "I am Drakkar," the figure said, "firstborn of the Black Wind, and keeper of the bond." Jake stepped back. "Nova said your name." Drakkar nodded. "She is my blood, my kin. She was chosen to carry the future." "The future?" "Yes, the pups growing inside her are not just children, they are keys. The first hybrids, born of human and Valari, born of strength and soul. They will open what was locked, and close what was left open." Jake didn't understand. But he didn't need to. Not yet. Drakkar walked closer. His presence felt heavy, like gravity. "You carry fear," Drakkar said, "but also love. That makes you worthy." "Worthy of what?" Drakkar raised one paw. A mark glowed in Jake's chest, the same blue light Nova carried, worthy of the father's bond. Jake looked down. The light sank into his skin, disappearing. Beneath it, suddenly he felt connected. He could feel Nova's breath, her heartbeat, the tiny sparks inside her, the pups. He could feel their thoughts, their fear, their hunger, their love. "They know me," Jake whispered. "They are part of you," Drakkar said. Then the world began to fade. Jake woke in the cave, gasping. The light on the wall had vanished. Nova was awake now, staring at him. "You saw him?" she said. Jake nodded. "Drakkar." Nova smiled weakly. "Then the bond is full." "What does that mean?" Nova looked at her belly. "It means they're ready to speak." Jake leaned in. "What do you mean, they?" Nova closed her eyes. "Listen." Jake sat still. Nothing. Then, a sound in his mind. Not words, not images, just warmth. A soft thought, like a child's voice. "Father." Jake's eyes filled with tears. He wasn't ready for this. But they were. Nova touched his hand. "They know you, and now you must protect them." "How?" Jake asked. "Hunters are still out there. The last one nearly killed us." Nova looked to the cave's entrance. "They won't stop. They'll come again. But we are not alone. Anymore." "You mean Drakkar?" "Yes," she said, "and others. The old ones will wake. The stones will call them." Outside, thunder rumbled, but it wasn't rain. Not this time. A deep howl echoed across the hills, then another, and another. Dozens, hundreds. They were coming, and they were coming fast. Jake stood and looked out. In the distance, shapes move. Across the mountain ridges. Giant shapes. Ancient shapes. Not machines. Not hunters. But Valari. The old ones. Drakkar had called them. Nova stood beside Jake, still weak but proud. "We're not running anymore," she said. Jake nodded, gripping his blaster. "Then let them come." The trial of the mate. The wind shifted again. This time it carried more than just cold. It carried voices. Deep howls, layered in strange rhythm. Echoes moved across the stones like music from another world. Jake stood at the mouth of the cave, blaster ready. Beside him, Nova rested on her side, her breath slow but even. The pups inside her were growing. Jake could feel them now. Not just hear them, but feel their thoughts, their emotions. They were scared, but curious. Awake. Nova's fur pulsed with dim light. "They're coming," she said. "The hunters?" Jake asked. Nova shook her head. "No, the old ones. Drakkar's call has been answered." From the mist, shapes began to form. Giant creatures, graceful but strong. Some walked like wolves, others more upright like men. All were Valari, but older, larger, and marked with glowing blue tattoos. They surrounded the cave entrance, silent and watchful. One of them stepped forward. It was Drakkar. His voice was clear in Jake's mind. "You must come with me, human." Jake hesitated, glancing back at Nova. She gave him a small nod. "This is the path." They walked deep into the hills. No words were spoken. The Valari moved like shadows, silent but sure. Jake followed Drakkar through a narrow path that opened into a wide, ancient circle of stones. The sky above was stormy, yet no rain fell. The air was heavy. Drakkar stepped into the center of the circle and turned to Jake. "Our kind does not give without trust," he said. "We do not join our future with those who have not proven their truth." Jake stepped forward, jaw tight. "What do you want me to do?" A low growl echoed through the circle. Another Valari stepped forward. This one was younger than Drakkar, but larger than any Jake had seen. His eyes were red and his fur was black like coal. A jagged scar cut across his face. "This is Jaren," Drakkar said. "He believes you are not worthy." Jaren bared his teeth. "No human should father our blood. The pups will be cursed, broken, weak." Jake took a breath. "Then let me prove you wrong," Jaren growled. "Then enter the maze." Jake turned to Drakkar. "Maze?" Drakkar pointed to a crack in the stone floor. It was glowing faintly. "The maze of truth. It is not a place. It is a memory. A test. You will walk through your past, your pain, your shame. If your heart breaks, you will not return. If your mind breaks, the pups will lose their future." Jake looked down. Fear twisted in his gut, but he stepped forward anyway. He didn't fall. He sank, like slipping into deep water. Then, darkness. He stood in a room, not the cave, not the planet, but a metal hallway. He knew this place. The old colony ship. The one from 6 years ago. He walked slowly. Doors opened around him. Inside each door, a piece of his life waited. One door showed his younger brother, laughing, chasing him down a hill on Earth. Another showed his mother's funeral, the cold rain, the empty faces. Another door opened to the accident, the fire, the screams. He stepped back. "You left them," a voice said. He turned. It was himself, another version of him, burned, broken, hollow-eyed. "You ran when they needed you." Jake's heart pounded. "I didn't run. You survived. They didn't. Isn't that the same?" Jake clenched his fists. I tried everything." His shadow self smiled. "You'll fail again. Nova will die. The pups will die. And you'll be alone again." The walls began to shake. But then, another voice entered the dark. "Father." Jake froze. The fear melted away. He closed his eyes and followed the voice. It led him to a final door. Behind it, Nova stood, bathed in golden light. The pups sat beside her, small and glowing like stars. "You are more than your pain," Nova said. Jake stepped forward and touched her hand, and the maze shattered. He woke on the stone floor, gasping. Drakkar stood above him. "You returned." Jake stood up slowly. "I saw everything, all the worst parts of me." "And you walked through it," Drakkar said. Jaren growled. "This proves nothing." Drakkar raised a paw. "He did not fight beasts. He fought himself, and he won." The other Valari bowed their heads. Drakkar turned to Jake. "You are now marked. The pups will carry your name." Suddenly a sound split the air. Nova's voice in Jake's mind, sharp and filled with pain. "They're here." Jake's eyes widened. "Who?" "The Bounty King. He brought ships, and he's coming for the cave." Drakkar's eyes narrowed. "Then we stand together." Jaren stepped forward. "This isn't over, but I will fight beside him." Jake nodded. "Good, because no one takes my family. They want the pups." The sky turned black, not with night, with ships. Dark shapes covered the stars, blocking the moonlight like an angry swarm. They didn't roar like normal engines. They whispered. Machines made for war, built to move silent and fast. Jake stood at the cave entrance, eyes locked on the sky. Beside him, Jaren gripped a long energy spear. Behind them, Nova lay deep inside the cave, body glowing with strange pulses. Her breathing had changed. Short, sharp, rhythmic. "She's in labor," Jake said. Too early, Dracar stepped out of the shadows. The pups feel the danger. They choose to come now. Can she survive it? Jake asked, voice shaking. Dracar didn't answer. He didn't have to. Inside the cave, Nova was trembling. Her paws dug into the stone. Sweat glistened on her fur. Her eyes were shut tight, glowing gold under the lids. The pups were coming, but they weren't normal pups. They were born of two species, two powers. Born in blood, fear, and love. Nova was strong, but her body shook under the weight of what was growing inside her. "They're almost here," she whispered. One of the old Valari females, a healer named Sira, sat beside her. She hummed a song from the stars, soft and ancient. Nova listened through the pain. "Hold on," Sira said. "They need you strong." Nova gritted her teeth. "I will not break." Outside, Jake and Jaren moved through the rocks, setting traps. Trip, wires, shock fields, plasma stones that explode with pressure. But the enemy was no longer hiding. They were coming fast. The Bounty King had arrived. His ship landed first. Huge, black, sharp like a blade. He stepped out, taller than any creature on the planet. Golden armor. 4 eyes. A voice that made the rocks vibrate. "Bring me the silver dog," he said, walking slowly toward the cave. "Bring me the pups." Behind him came soldiers. Not human, not alien, something mixed. Their skin was gray and smooth, their eyes glowing green. They carried weapons that hummed with death. Dracar stepped into their path. Jaren stood beside him. And Jake, blaster raised, jaw set, stood between them all and the cave. "You'll have to kill us first," Jake said. The Bounty King tilted, his head. "As you wish." The battle began. The traps worked at first. Explosions lit the hillside, burning holes through the first wave. Soldiers screamed. Some fled. Others charged. Jake fired shot after shot, never backing down. Jaren moved like lightning, spear flashing blue as he cut through enemies with rage and grace. But more kept coming. The king didn't fight yet. He watched. Calm, like he knew this was just the start. Inside the cave, Nova screamed. The first pup was coming. Sira worked fast, guiding the birth, chanting the old words. Nova's body burned. Her claws scratched the stone. Pain, like fire, filled every part of her. But she didn't stop. She didn't give up. "For them," she whispered. Outside, Jake ran out of power cells. He grabbed a fallen blade and kept fighting. Blood on his face. Cuts on his arms. Then, the king stepped forward. Dracar moved to block him, but the king raised one hand. With a flick of his fingers, Dracar flew back, slammed into a wall of stone, and didn't move. Jake turned, heart frozen. "No," he whispered. The king pointed at him. You are the key." Jake raised his blade. "You'll never touch them," the king smiled. "You think you are strong, but you are nothing." He lifted his hand again, but before the blast could fire, the air cracked, a sound like thunder. A flash of blue light exploded from the cave. And then, they heard it. A cry. Small, new, alive. The first pup had been born. Sira held it in her arms, a small glowing creature with silver fur and golden eyes. Its breath was steady. Its light was strong. Nova collapsed back, tears in her eyes. "He's safe," she whispered. But it wasn't. Over 3 more were coming. Outside, the light from the pup's birth spread across the rocks. The king hesitated. "What is this?" he hissed. Jake felt it too. Something inside him shifted, warmed, grew. He felt the pup, not just saw it. He felt its fear, its love, its power. The bond was alive. "You'll never win," Jake said. "They're more than blood, more than your science, they're hope." The king roared, but as he raised his weapon again, the sky above cracked open. Dozens of blue lights shot down, Old ships, ancient Valari. The forgotten tribes had returned. They landed fast and silent, and they were not kind. The second wave hit. The Bounty King's forces like a storm. Fire, wind, claws. Screams filled the hills. Jake turned toward the cave, bleeding, breathing hard. Nova lay on the stone floor, weak but alive. Syra held 2 pups now. A third was coming. And then the fourth. All glowing, all perfect. Nova looked at Jake and smiled. You kept us safe. Jake fell beside her, holding her hand. I didn't do it alone. But deep in the forest, one scout survived. He watched. He listened. And then he whispered into his broken comm unit. The hybrids are real. Alert the council. Phase 2 begins. Now. Father of a new world. The stars were quiet again. The fire was out. The wind had stopped. The smoke from the battle had cleared. For the first time in days, the hills were still. But peace never lasts long. Not when the universe knows your name. Inside the cave, Jake held the smallest of the 4 pups. It curled against his chest, warm and glowing, its heartbeat soft and steady. Nova lay beside him, weak but alive. Syra and the other Valari moved gently around them, wrapping the pups in soft, light cloth made from old sacred vines. Nova whispered, "They are strong, each one different, but all connected." Jake nodded, still not believing what he had witnessed. "They're perfect." Nova smiled. "They're ours." Outside, the Valari stood guard across the rocks, their bodies bruised but unbroken. Drakkar had returned to his feet. Jaren had taken command of a dozen warriors. No hunter dared to return, not after the storm they brought. But Jake knew something else was coming. He could feel it, deep in his bones. Down in the valley, beyond the broken ships and burning fields, a single scout dragged his wounded body into a dark cave. His comm device sparked. He whispered 3 words to someone unseen. "The hybrids live." His voice reached beyond the planet. Far beyond, into space. Across light years, through firewalls and signals no human had ever heard of, and in the silence of space, someone answered, "Then they must be taken." The next day, Nova's strength began to fade. Her body had given everything. Even with healing, even with rest, she was fading. Jake sat beside her. He tried to stay calm for the pups. He didn't speak of fear. But Nova knew. "Don't cry," she whispered. "You're not going anywhere," Jake said, forcing a smile. Nova closed her eyes. "Jake, listen. They will come again. Stronger, crueler. Not for me. For them." Jake looked down at the pups. "Then I'll fight them all." "No," she said. "You must hide them." "Hide them? Where?" Nova reached for a carved stone hidden under her sleeping mat. Glowing lines lit up as her paw touched it. "This is the key to an Ark, a living ship, buried under the forest floor." Jake frowned. "Ark? A vessel made by the first Valari. It knows how to protect, how to vanish, how to raise them far, from war." Jake clenched his jaw. "And you want me to take them? Without you?" Nova's eyes softened. "They need you, and you need them. I am just one star, but they are a galaxy." Jake stood in the center of the old clearing as the Valari dug through the earth. Soon the ground cracked, and something rose, a massive tree, made of light and metal. It unfolded like a blooming flower, revealing an entrance. The Ark. Smooth. Silent. Alive. Drakkar placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. "This is your path now." Jake nodded. "I don't know how to be a father." "You already are," Drakkar said. Nova limped to the edge of the Ark. Jake rushed to help her, but she waved him off. She carried the 4th pup herself, pressing her nose to its tiny head. "I give them to you, Jake, not as a warrior, not as a protector, but as their future." She passed him the pup. Then, slowly, she knelt in the grass. She did not rise again. The ark lifted the next day. It didn't roar. It whispered. Into the sky, into the stars. The pups slept in small nests. Jake watched Nova's planet grow smaller on the screen. A message played in his mind. Nova's voice, soft and forever. Raise them to love. Raise them to lead. They are not weapons. They are bridges. Years passed. Jake lived among stars no human had seen before. The ark guided him, taught him, showed him the hidden histories of Nova's people. The truth about the hybrid prophecy, the enemies waiting in the dark. The pups grew fast. One was a dreamer, always asking about Earth. One was a fighter, just like Jaren. One was a healer, quiet and wise. And the last was something else. He could see the future, feel pain before it happened. He looked Jake in the eye one night and said, "They're coming, Dad." "Who?" Jake asked. The pup pointed to the stars, the ones who want to take us. Jake trained them every day, taught them about humans, about kindness, about war, about peace. He read them old Earth stories, Nova's lullabies, and when they asked about their mother, he looked up at the stars and said, "She was the fire that lit our sky." On a forgotten moon, the Bounty King's broken body was rebuilt. He remembered Nova's eyes, he remembered Jake's rage, and he remembered the glow of the hybrid pups. "Find them," he whispered to the machines. "Bring me the father of the new world."